A giant utility merger is about to happen in Delaware. How does it affect you and new affordable housing in Wilmington? This is the Delaware Way. There was recently a huge merger up and down the mid-Atlantic states that could affect you, especially if you're a customer of Delmarva Power. Jeff Montgomery, a reporter for the News Journal, has been covering the merger, a $6.8 billion merger between Exelon and the Pepco Holdings Incorporated, which is the parent company of Delmarva. You know, you can get so stuck in the financials of this. I'd really like to take this from the consumer standpoint, how it's going to affect consumers in Delaware. And so I ask you, how will it?
From the point of view of the people who want to do the merger, they believe they're going to make a more reliable system. They are going to be returning some of the benefits from the merger to the customers in the form of a one-time payment, 1 month, I guess, rebate or a credit on their bills.
How big will that be?
It's $42 million. The bulk of it is for that rebate, maybe $100, I gather, for a month or maybe a bit more, but it'll be a one-time. They haven't yet approved the rules of it. The merger itself is still a little bit uncertain. Earth Justice, the environmental organization, filed an appeal in Maryland yesterday, arguing that the company, that it wasn't in the best interest of the consumer at all, and that because of Exelon's large nuclear fleet, among other things, that there's too much risk exposure for Pepco customers. As well, there are disagreements about the extent to which Exelon particularly is prepared to invest in renewables. But in Delaware, there was a requirement that the new company make significant investments in assessing wind power in the state, in addition to that.
Yeah, there seemed to be, as you go from state to state, especially, because there's several states involved and the District of Columbia, and they still have to vote. That's the last place that has to vote, right?
DC still hanging, I believe, yes.
DC still has to vote, but everybody else has approved this, and except for these objections by an environmental group, it seemed like it was going to go through. That's the only holdup at this point, and that's going to go to court?
Potentially. They filed an appeal, and how far it gets is not clear at this point.
And in every state, it seems to be there's different requirements and different payments to customers, and I guess it all depends if you were with Exelon or you're with Pepco. Is that fair?
Well, the way they worked it out, Delaware did this and others did as well. They keep referring to it as the most favored nation provision, where the best deal any of the jurisdictions get will somehow be matched. In Delaware, for example, if Maryland or Prince George's County had a few extra provisions or some larger amount of money for a rebate, Delaware would get something to make it square up. So,
and it would make it one of the biggest power companies in the country, right?
Yeah, definitely the largest in the Mid-Atlantic for electricity and natural gas, about 30,000 employees and 10 million customers, I think.
But aside from this rebate check, will customers see any difference, really?
No, they may actually be perhaps in the end a little bit better off, because in Delaware they pressed the two companies to reduce the amount that they're going to be spending on reliability, because they thought they could get the system could be reliable enough without spending as much as they wanted to. So in some ways they may be marginally better off a little bit on their bills, but in general, no.
It seems like when there's these mergers, it's really one company taking over another company. Is this a true merger, or is there one company really devouring the other one?
Exelon's a stronger partner. Pepco, though, has significant assets, and they're going to retain their headquarters, I believe, and Delmarva will retain its. There are requirements that Delmarva employees in Delaware keep their jobs for some period of time, even to the point where there was a requirement for Delmarva to make about the same level of charitable contributions in the community for a couple of years at least. So not going to see a huge change.
And so will both companies still exist, or is there going to be a name change? And will they eventually all just be one company by name as well?
I think eventually all just one thing. But there's going to be a phase-in, I believe, but for now.
Another story that you have been covering has to do with the ports along the river in Delaware, and there is a battle brewing. Is that a fair way to say it, between Wilmington and going down a little bit further south by the Delaware Memorial Bridge? Low
key, but right now there's a debate over what money is available for port development should be spent. The the present Port of Wilmington, which has been growing steadily for the last several years in terms of its cargo volume, wants $250,000 to try to do a study of the best way to expand and possibly move out onto the Delaware River. There's a private venture to the south, as you mentioned, by the Delaware Memorial Bridge, that would like that money and another $250,000 to do an environmental study to assure private investors that there won't be any environmental baggage if they build an entirely new $600 million port just in the Newcastle Industrial Park. So,
and why is this happening? Is there enough business out there to support all these ports that are being built up along the Delaware River? Because it's happening in other states as well.
It's a question. The Panama Canal will very shortly be opening a new sets of locks that can take larger vessels, and the feeling is that globally that's going to change trade patterns and shipping patterns, and people are trying to position themselves to catch, to draw some of that change into their own ports. Some researchers don't feel that there's going to be enough to make a big difference on the Delaware River, where there's already 2 ports in New Jersey under development and a big one, Southport in Philadelphia. So the question of having an overcapacity of ports and being overbuilt is a concern.
Okay, thank you so much. These are important issues that I don't think get covered enough, at least on TV. I know they do in the News Journal. So thank you so much for coming in. Jeff Montgomery, reporter for the News Journal. We'll be right back with the Delaware Way in just a minute.